He thought she was nothing, just a janitor. But in the quiet corners of the office, a humble woman named Sarah moved with grace, leaving small traces of her kindness that no one noticed, except one little girl. She worked tirelessly, day and night cleaning floors, emptying trash and polishing surfaces, all while supporting her family in ways that few could imagine. Her hands were rough from work, yet they carried warmth and care, quietly touching lives without asking for recognition. The CEO, Mr. Sterling, saw only a tired janitor and made a decision. That would change everything, a decision that seemed inconsequential at the moment but would ripple through the lives of everyone in that building. What no one knew was that Sarah's acts of quiet kindness were not just small gestures. They were the lifeline for a young girl struggling in silence, whose days were brightened by the little drawings left on her desk. Little did anyone realize that the person they overlooked would soon hold the key to hope, healing, and justice. In a world where power and wealth often overshadow humility and kindness, Sarah's story is a reminder that every life matters, and sometimes the quietest souls have the most profound impact. This is where our story begins. With an ordinary janitor about to reveal her extraordinary importance, Sarah was not just a janitor. She was a mother, a sister, a friend, and a quiet hero in a world that rarely noticed her efforts. Every morning she rose before dawn, balancing 2 jobs to make ends meet, yet she never complained. In the office, she moved like a shadow, unnoticed by most, but her heart overflowed with small acts of care. She knew Mr. Sterling's young daughter loved art, and after hours, she left tiny drawings on her desk, flowers, stars, little animals, simple sketches that carried warmth and encouragement. The little girl called it magic, and secretly waited for each new drawing. Her spirits lifted by Sarah's unrecognized generosity. Sarah did not seek reward or recognition. Her joy came from seeing a smile on that young face. Little did she know that her quiet devotion and simple art would one day become the lifeline that no medicine or therapy could provide. Even as the world overlooked her, Sarah's heart carried an immense power, a power that could inspire, heal, and transform the lives of those around her. The story of the unnoticed janitor was about to become a tale of courage, compassion, and undeniable impact. Mr. Sterling, the young CEO, was the embodiment of success, wealth, and efficiency. To him, the world was measured in profit margins and productivity charts, and people were often mere tools to achieve his vision. He had little patience for fatigue, mistakes, or what he perceived as inefficiency. When he walked through his gleaming office, he expected everything and everyone to perform perfectly, leaving no room for human imperfection or empathy. He rarely noticed Sarah, except when her presence crossed his sharp gaze, and even then he dismissed her quietly, believing her work easily replaceable. His daughter's secret delight in Sarah's drawings was invisible to him, lost in his obsession with appearances and results. He saw order and logic, not the invisible threads of kindness and love that Sarah wove quietly through the office. Yet in the moments that seemed ordinary, the seeds of a profound lesson were already being sown, waiting for the moment when the arrogance of wealth and authority would collide with the quiet, transformative power of a humble heart. One late night, exhausted from her long shifts, Sarah paused for a brief moment of rest, leaning against a wall, her hand still holding a mop. Mr. Sterling walked by, noticing her pause, misinterpreting her fatigue as laziness. A misheard conversation, or a momentary misunderstanding, confirmed in his mind that she was inefficient and not worthy of her position. Without a second thought, he summoned her and delivered the words that would shatter the quiet dignity she carried. "You're just a janitor. We can replace you." Sarah nodded, silent and composed, leaving the office with her belongings in hand. Her head held high, her heart heavy but resolute. Little did anyone know this moment of injustice was not an ending, but the beginning of a story where the real power of kindness, compassion, and human connection would shine brighter than wealth, status, or authority. What seemed like a small, inconsequential firing would soon echo with consequences far beyond the office walls. The little girl returned to her room that evening, expecting the familiar comfort of the daily drawings, but they were gone. The office fairy had vanished. And with her absence came a darkness the young child could not understand. She refused to eat, to engage with doctors or therapy, retreating into silence and despair. Her small world had been brightened by Sarah's subtle acts, and without them the joy and hope she clung to began to fade. The family tried everything: expensive treatments, specialist consultations, and endless care, but nothing seemed to reach her heart. Only one thing mattered to her now: the gentle drawings left by the unseen artist who had quietly understood her, cared for her, and given her a reason to smile. And so the girl waited, unaware that the person who could restore her joy was already on a path to return to her life, a hero in disguise, ready to teach lessons that money and power could never buy. Mr. Sterling was desperate. No medicine, no expensive therapy, no specialist could awaken his daughter's fading spirit. He paced his grand office, frustration gnawing at him, realizing that something vital had been overlooked. His assistant scrambled, tracing schedules, checking office records, and investigating every small clue, until finally the truth emerged. The quiet janitor, the one he dismissed without thought, was the secret behind the little girl's joy, the office fairy whose drawings had brought color, hope, and life into her days. Shocked, he realized the depth of his misjudgment. The very person he deemed replaceable held the key to saving the life he cherished most. Every hurried decision, every ignored kindness, every moment of arrogance came crashing down upon him, teaching him a lesson in humility, compassion, and the undeniable power of unnoticed good deeds. Sarah's talent was far more than mere hobby. Each stroke of her pencil, each carefully chosen color, had a purpose she may never have realized. When her art reached the young girl, it did more than soothe, it healed, stimulated her mind and opened her heart. Her creativity, once dormant because of life's hardships, now revealed a profound gift. The assistant watched in awe as Sarah's drawings were traced, analyzed, and discovered to have unique therapeutic qualities that no modern medicine had replicated. It was a revelation. The quiet janitor was a self-taught artist, a healer and a guardian of the child's happiness. Mr. Sterling, confronted with the undeniable truth, felt the weight of his arrogance. Realizing he had misjudged someone whose heart was far richer than his fortune, Sarah, unnoticed and underestimated, held the power to restore hope where all else had failed. Humbled and anxious, Mr. Sterling approached Sarah's modest home, every step heavy with regret. He had underestimated her. He had dismissed her, failed to see the depth of her compassion, and now, desperate for his daughter's recovery, he begged for her return, not as a janitor, but as the person whose gift could save his child. Sarah opened the door, wary, eyes reflecting both surprise and caution. The man who had once spoken harshly now pleaded, his voice trembling, stripped of ego and pride. She listened silently, weighing anger against empathy. Could she forgive? Could she rise above the injustice he had done and choose compassion over resentment? The air was thick with tension, the moment heavy with consequence. In her quiet, steadfast heart, the answer would shape not just the child's future, but the life of the man who had so profoundly underestimated her. Sarah chose compassion. She returned to the home not to serve, but to heal. The child's face lit up the moment she saw her, joy spilling into laughter and renewed energy. With each drawing, each gentle lesson, the girl regained her appetite, her laughter, and her curiosity. Mr. Sterling watched in awe and gratitude, learning a lesson no boardroom or balance sheet could teach. Humility, respect, and recognition of others' worth are far more valuable than power or money. Sarah's act of quiet heroism transformed lives. The little girl thrived. The CEO changed, and the office, once cold and transactional, began to value every person, every contribution, and every act of kindness. The unjust firing became a turning point, revealing that true power lies not in status or wealth, but in compassion, skill, and heart. This story reminds us that even the quietest, seemingly ordinary people can hold extraordinary power. Small act of kindness, a gentle gesture, or unnoticed talent can change lives, heal hearts, and restore hope where all seems lost. Sarah, the janitor, taught lessons that money, authority, and pride could not. That every person matters, every effort counts, and justice finds its way when compassion leads. Remember, the world often overlooks heroes in plain sight, but their impact can be life-changing. Cherish kindness, recognize hidden talent, and never underestimate anyone based on title or status. Subscribe to discover more real-life stories, emotional journeys, and cinematic tales of courage, justice, and humanity, because every story matters, and every voice deserves to be heard.